I saw Hbox as one of the gods.
It's hard to live in that environment where you're always trying your best, but you don't feel like you're good enough.
He was so vilified, so criticized.
You could just tell how many people didn't like me.
The games were an escape for him.
If he was not number one, it's like he was unworthy.
Every loss definitely got to him.
I didn't expect it to lead into this crazy turn of events, which eventually got me here. Does playing Melee make me happy? I guess so. But sometimes I wonder as well. You get really good at something, you get all the attention, your ego gets inflated. Some people are really good at never letting it affect them. I envy those people. I look up to those people so hard.
There are probably a lot of different reasons for why Juan had a tough time with the community growing up.
There's only so much that you can understand from the outside. They don't know what happens when after you fist bump and you walk off the stage and you go behind the curtain. They don't know what it's like to open your phone and see everyone reminding you of how badly you played. When you do well at it, it feels amazing. But when you underperform and do badly, it becomes like the thing that temporarily you hate the most. Every player, every streamer has a persona.
The community gets a lot of signals for what's okay and not okay from what top players say and do, especially when he had fights with Mango online.
Mango and I are basically the two guys in the GOAT argument currently still active.
If you're a big fan of Leffen or a big fan of Mango and they're both hating on Juan, then you're gonna just bandwagon on and start hating on Juan.
And sometimes you want to be the hero, sometimes you have to play the villain for the greater good. And sometimes it's fun to, ease into it, ham it up a little bit.
That character of being a villain, it was created to protect himself. It's like armor.
And now it's become kind of part of my brand, so here we are.
The Mango thing was kind of mean and cruel.
Early on, some of the way he would act towards me, I wasn't used to it. And I remember I got really angry at him and bitter, especially around Evo 2013. Dude, Mango shit talking you on his AMA. I'm like, what? I opened it up. Some of his replies are just bashing me. At that point, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, this mother. And then I just typed a storm. I clicked send and I closed my laptop and I'm just like, this guy. So then he responded. And it was just the PR disaster for both of us.
But I think with how loud and unfiltered Juan's personality was, he probably says a lot of things that he wishes he hadn't said in the spur of the moment.
So when I'm on camera on my stream, yeah, I am Hungrybox. Or I throw a chair because that's what I tell myself to do. Sometimes that's Hungrybox. Clout is a disease. And I'm guilty of it too. Because we want to be accepted. We want to be lauded and appreciated, right? It comes to a certain point where you're no longer just a guy pressing buttons. You become a role model, you become a face for a brand, you become part of a narrative. I was the joke end of the community, the stick of it. I'm just that's not me, I don't want to be that guy. Did I want to be his eternal rival, this guy who's pissing him off? I don't think so. But what I did want was to beat him. I just wanted to win. Because I wanted respect more than anything.
I think he definitely had a chip on his shoulder. He had a lot to prove. Look at his childhood, at the environment that he grew up with his dad of never being good enough. I think he has this armor of, I'm the best, right? That's the armor. If underneath what you're afraid of is not being good enough, you put up this ego.
And it didn't help that when I was 13, 14 years old, coming up in the scene, I was this cocky little brat who thought he was hot shit and thought he could be anyone in the world. Being that kid from middle school to high school who all he really wanted was validation and all he really wanted was to be included and accepted, suddenly having the spotlight thrown on him, it took a while to adjust to it. Maybe it was a little too bright sometimes, or maybe I like it too much sometimes.
When we decided to come to America because the father was having some financial issues, Juan was 3 years old. We had a new house, new culture. Everything was so different.
I think it was hard for me to fit in. I was raised to do really well in school, get good grades and whatnot. But just like in Smash Bros, if you win too much, you have people who start resenting you for it.
He was bullied in school very much.
I had circles that wouldn't want me in them, even though I just wanted to be their friends. In middle school, Boys and Girls Club, that's where they started putting the Smash Bros setups. That's when I met a guy named Luis Rosias. I think you all know him as Crunch now.
We did not get along at all. To the point where like our teacher was like sat us down and she was like, you two are working together and you guys are gonna sort out your differences. So since that moment, we kind of hit it off and became friends.
We'd run tournaments and it was always me and him in the finals. Our rivalry became really like, not bitter, it was very intense, very intense.
Juan's personality has always been very big, and you know, some people like that and it rubs other people the wrong way. In school, we weren't like ever like the popular kids group. We were kind of like had our own little outcasts group.
He started doing these gatherings in my house.
We joined a group called WADO, What Are the Odds? It's like a bunch of like local smashers near us.
And every time I hosted a house tournament, they got bigger and bigger.
The music was 24/7, Melly, baby, you.
It was insane, like how many people, there was definitely a fire hazard, absolutely.
And then we would just put TVs everywhere. We'd put TVs in the patio, in the living room, 2 in the kitchen.
I woke up the next day and there were people sleeping in the hallway, in the bathtub. I say, as long as you do the homework and you finish your education, you can play as much as you want.
I made sure to bring Smash, not into just my hobby, but into my home as well, because it's what I loved. I'm very close to my mom and my brothers, but growing up, I had a father who was like very bipolar, kind of manic sort of guy.
He was locked in his room because he didn't want to listen to us when we were arguing. The games were an escape for him.
Part one of the reasons I played Smash so much too was to just not be around that. When he started realizing that I was getting really good, and I think I was just sitting with him in the kitchen or on the bedside, and he was just like, yeah, you're getting really good at the game. Just remember, you can be very good, but there's always going to be one guy better than you. I've seen the movies. I don't think the dad's supposed to say that in the movies.
It's hard to live in that environment where you're always trying your best, but you don't feel like you're good enough. There's probably always this desire to be acknowledged as great or as one of the best that comes from having that childhood experience.
Playing Melee makes me feel like I have a purpose here. And I felt like when I got good at Smash, this like a new path for me opened up. I mean, there's no sensation quite like winning a big tournament or being on the stage or feeling that adrenaline.
The moment that I found out that Juan was really good at the game, I took him to a venue in Orlando, and that venue he won at the same time that my ex-husband was leaving the country, leaving us without the visa and without the money. So it was a bittersweet moment. That was the beginning of his success.
And a few years later, I graduated college and then I went to go work as an engineer. That's when I asked Liquid to bring Crunch Lewis with me as my coach.
There's this event happening in Sweden, DreamHack. Like if you fly out Crunch, he'll do a boot camp with me for 2 weeks.
Of course, when we won, that was the first time I beat Armada in his home turf like that against his Fox. That was a huge win. And it was very emotional for me because he was the best player in the world. And once I beat him, I realized, wait, maybe I might be the best now, or it could be.
His dad passed away 1 week before that. It was like a pivot moment.
It was just cathartic, dude. I was able to overcome and do something that someone said, my own father said I couldn't do. For me to be able to overcome that, gave me all the motivation I needed to realize if I can prove him wrong, I can actually prove anyone else wrong at this point. It's just up to me, no one else. I won Apex 2010 with no one cheering, you know what I mean? And that right then and there, I probably should have realized maybe I should switch characters. Maybe this might not be good for my mental health.
My views on Hbox before I knew him, I never really bought into the Hbox as a villain thing. That I was always of the mind of it's just a game.
To go from having that love for the game to suddenly feeling cast out for doing well in Smash, it hurt a lot.
It's an undeniable fact that it's just Jigglypuff is a character that a lot of people think is the antithesis of how Melee should be played. So no matter what, just being a top Jigglypuff player, when you're winning, it's just gonna by default give people to paint you in a negative light. I don't like watching you play, so therefore I associate that with not liking you.
You could just tell how many people didn't like me. You could just tell how many people just wanted me out of the scene, hated my guts, wanted me to lose.
It's like the bullies in school. He's on the verge of always being criticized.
I saw Hbox as one of the gods, right? We put players like Armada, Hbox, Mango, M2K, we put them on this pedestal. They're the gods of Melee, these mythical figures. He's just a guy like everybody else who has a very bombastic personality, and he happens to push buttons really good and has done it for a really long time.
I never thought it would get to that point, and I didn't realize that being how I was, and then also playing Jigglypuff, and then also playing defensively, it's like all these things that are like red flags for not having a fandom, right? I got really depressed. I couldn't find happiness anymore in Smash. And I think there was a point where that was happening, and I was also going through a really bad breakup at the same time. And I started like not caring about stuff.
And that moment, I wonder if this was a good thing to do, because instead of happiness, he was having a lot of sadness and loneliness.
You know you hit the point at the lowest where you look at yourself and all of a sudden you realize that's why they hated me so long for this many years. I had a ex-girlfriend tell me once, I hope you never have to wonder why every person that eventually gets to know you hates you. And once you hear that, you can't like unhear it. But it's one thing to quit it, another thing to realize you're more than that, and realize you're more than your mistakes.
You know, when you face a crisis, you either collapse forever or you rise like the phoenix.
I told Team Liquid, please send me to as many tournaments as you possibly can. I cannot think about what's going on right now. I need to be distracted. And in 2017, I won 9 majors in a row. Back to back. It was the best I've ever played in my life. I remember when the rank 1 was solidified and I was playing Armada in Grand Finals downstairs, and I remember just feeling zen. Because I'm not playing right now for the rank 1. I'm playing because I need to be doing something that isn't toiling with my own brain and my own thoughts. And I'm happy.
It was like I was flowering myself because I saw this creature that was in a terrible crisis, all of the sudden coming out like a flower.
I looked at Lewis. Lewis, like, you did it. And I was like this, and I started tearing up. I'm rank 1. There's no argument. Who would have thought that like the one thing that could push me to be the absolute best finally was just absolute heartbreak, turmoil, and just being in the worst part of my life. It's when you don't aim for it, it's when you don't chase it, that everything comes to you.
Being on the top is very difficult. People don't forget your mistakes. People don't forgive.
Negativity as he improved was probably one of the hardest parts. Juan has had like that desire to like stand in the spotlight and to like be better than everyone else, but that rubbed a lot of people like the wrong way.
You think it's the best, but when you reach the climax is a very lonely place.
You're suddenly the guy on everyone's mind. Every top player is now targeting you. And if you win one big thing, it's fine. If you win 25 big things, it's a much bigger problem. I had a good friend group and a good support group to keep me going through it, but like, it was not fun, man. There's only a few times where I considered retiring or stopping. I think one was the watch incident at SmashCon. Why am I getting like entire diatribes and discussions and armchair psychologist analysis for me doing this?
I remember a plane ride home, like after the crab incident. He's like, I don't know, why do I even play this game? Like, why do I even try so hard? Everyone just hates me after I win.
I would be talking to friends, and I'd realize all I would do is just start talking about myself. I'm like, you're right, I do that. Why do I do that? And the people that I didn't do that with, the ones that I listened to, ended up getting way closer with me. I've lost a lot of friends because of that habit. It's not always about you. In fact, it's very rarely about you. It's a process to learn, but once you learn it, I think you become a lot happier.
He spent so long in the Melee community just being the punching bag, the butt of all the jokes, oh God, Hbox won another major, oh, I didn't want to see that, etc., etc. During quarantine, he starts playing Ultimate.
So one day I decided to enter an online tournament and just stream my run. Every time I won 1 set or 2 sets or 3, it was so unexpected that everyone started going crazy when it happened.
His place of finding his place of belonging, and during the pandemic, that group kind of just exploded.
He started making all these new contents and YouTube and Twitter and Twitch
from the Ultimate community, from those Ultimate streams, I think that's like really the first time in his career that he was receiving near unanimous positive praise. They were rooting for him instead of against him like they had been for so long in Melee.
All of a sudden, I got a chance to feel kind of what Mango felt his entire life playing Melee. I got hooked in that feeling and I kept doing it. And I ended up streaming more and entering more Ultimate brackets in like 2 years than I have in my entire life for Melee brackets.
I think right now he has the best of both worlds. He can, see people and travel and be surrounded by like people who care about him, but he also has, that big community to go back to whenever he wants in his Twitch stream.
I realized that when I was spending time with the people that I love, I found a reason to like want to play again. I have everything here around me. Everything that I've worked for is because I decided to play Smash. I shouldn't give that up based upon what other people think.
He's done so much, both for Ultimate and Melee, over his entire career, but even just during quarantine, where people have kind of gone like, Hbox isn't that bad, maybe. Like, maybe it's okay.
Juan has blossomed a lot recently. I think he tries to give back to the community, whether it's through tournaments or, trying to race up other players.
He is being humble, more humble than before. He's changing his attitude. He said that his ego is no longer what used to be.
I'm at peace with a lot of things now. I'm fortunate in a lot of ways too. If I'm at home and I have time, I stream, I do content. If I'm on the weekends traveling, I compete. I've realized that Smash Bros, I can be number 1 in the world, or I can be number 5 or 20, and there's pros and cons to all of those.
He's capable of doing anything. The sky is the limit. I don't have any doubt. Whatever he chooses, he's gonna be successful.
When do I think he's gonna stop? When he's dead, probably.
I don't think he'll ever stop competing because I don't think he'll ever stop loving the game. So he'll play until he can't, basically.
Sometimes you don't have to be like number 1 in the world. You should just be happy that you were part of such a special thing like Melee. There's no game in the world like it. There never will be. I was lucky enough to find the thing I was meant to do. And that's kick people in the face with a pink round Pokemon that happens to be in a fighting game.